Welcome back to another episode of the Experts in Fire podcast. I'm your host, Mike Vennard, and with me today is Randy Mowry. Today's episode is what to expect when unpacking your new fire feature. Let's get into it. Hey, Randy, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today, sir?
I am awesome, man. It's beautiful outside. Welcome to Michigan, everybody. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
It is beautiful outside. It was around about 56 this morning when I left the house. Oh, it was just, that's perfect morning. Can handle that the rest of the year.
If we could just do this every day like Cabo San Lucas, right? Just have the same thing, I'd be happy.
Right?
Yeah. You know, we usually talk about technical things. We usually talk about, safety features, things of that nature. But today we're going to talk about what to expect when you actually receive that fire feature that you purchased from Woodland Direct. And there are some key things. I know you wrote out an entire list. I feel like this is what you go through with all of your customers here. You sent this list over. So we want to share it with everybody so you can have an expectation. I know I've purchased things before. I bought a couple lamb beams when I removed a wall from a house, and man, those things showed up and they just dumped them.
I've had that happen too. Come home with a 1,000-pound pallet in my driveway just going, wait a minute, what?
What am I going to do with this?
Where'd that come from?
So it's good to know how it's going to show up and, you know, all the things that you need to look for. So we're going to walk through that today. And I think we just started with the main piece. Most fire features, if you're talking fireplaces, if not all fireplaces, are going to show up on a pallet shipped via freight.
Exactly. And it's definitely something good to talk about because I don't even know that we have actually in the past here. And, you know, when you're talking about a delivery, that's probably like the most important part is having folks understand that it is a freight delivery. A possibly 53-foot tractor trailer could show up on your street to make a delivery. It's not like when you go to your local box store to buy something, a washer or dryer, and they're going to bring it out on their own little box truck. This because, like I said, it could be a full-size, over-the-road freight-style truck. And just we want folks to understand that, first of all, and it is a freight delivery. It's going to be on a pallet. And then, you know, secondly, it's a scheduled delivery, meaning the freight company, whomever that may be, when it gets to the local trucking hub, Mike, they're going to call the customer to schedule a delivery appointment. You know, and usually there's some grace there. They might be able to give you a couple days, like if they call you on a Wednesday, but you can't have any assistance until maybe Thursday, Friday. You know, there's a bit of a grace window there that they can certainly work with. Curbside delivery just means that the truck is going to pull up into the street to the curb, and then it's going to be up to the customer to get this fireplace down, possibly even from the truck to the curb, and then from the curb to the garage, its final resting spot, the installation spot.
We try to use liftgate service as much as we can. Sometimes, depending on where people are in the country, they don't have the service available. But yeah, you're right, Randy, that you have the potential of a box truck, which is not that big a deal, right? All the way to your standard tractor trailer that could show up with your order. And you need to be aware ahead of time of what's going to happen, the potential of what's going to happen, and then how you're going to get it where it needs to go. Now, to most of our pros out there, they're already aware that this thing is going to show up a certain way. So if you're listening and you're going to have this delivered, because I know a lot of our pros will either have their clients order directly from us, or they'll order and have it shipped to the client's house. Prepare your client. They're going to want to know that something like this is coming.
Absolutely, because there's a few different ways of, you know, getting this from that delivery truck, which we have a lot of contractors that do. They may show up with their own truck and have it slid right off of the tractor trailer into their pickup truck, that type of thing. You know, if somebody has a, 300-400 foot service road to their house, they're going to do that on the dirt road. You know, of course, the weight is going to depend on the fireplaces. You know, some fireplaces may just be a couple hundred pounds. Some of them may be several hundred pounds. And it might be just multiple people lifting it off and setting it down. Forklift, possibly, depending on the size of these units and the availability of help, may need like some type of forklift or bobcat with forks on it to be able to not only get it off the truck, but also get it to where it's going to go, whether that's the garage or, wherever it's going to be, Mike.
And I'll have to say, depending on who you get, like I bought a basketball hoop the other day for my daughter. They delivered it. It came on a freight truck. My son had the forks all ready to go on his tractor because I was out of town. It showed up, and the driver looked at him and said, "Where do you want it, man?" Mike pointed at the garage, and he drug it in the garage. The problem is we can't always promise that, and it's frustrating for folks. You have to prepare that they're not going to be able to do that for you, but we can't guarantee. If they don't have the ability themselves with a lift gate to get it down, you need to have a plan, to be in place to say, this is how I'm going to get it where it needs to go. Not to mention, once you uncrate it, right, you're going to need to have a plan from there as well, because these units aren't light.
No, they're definitely not. Yeah, so you definitely want to have a plan. And then, as far as the delivery goes, we always want our folks to inspect for any kind of damage, dents or holes. So, visually, if that driver rolls it to the back end of the truck and it looks like a fork has actually been run through it, or there's some puncture holes that are, visual damage to it, we want folks just to refuse it and then give us a call right away. Take some pictures, of course, of what is going on with the fireplace and that visual damage that is, beyond repair, and send those images to us, call us so that we can be informed and get a hold of the logistics company that's going out with it. And then also we get that thing down and they get it into their, into their garage, the truck driver leaves, within that 2-3 days, we really want folks to open this thing up, even if they're not going to install it for, said 2, 3, 4 weeks, a month. We have projects that go on a long time. We want it visually inspected no matter what, because we do want to make sure that everything is, brand new. These units are brand new that we ship out. We're not shipping anything, used, reboxed, things of that nature. So we want to make sure that they're in brand new working order, and that's what we expect our clients to receive. So we do want that unpackaged, checked for hidden damage. And what I mean by hidden is something that you don't see when it is coming off the back of that truck. And then letting us know right away, because we have a small window, Mike, to file a damage claim with our logistics team.
Yeah, that's the key there. The responsibility does fall to whoever takes possession of it to check it. And I'm guilty myself of getting packages and putting them in the garage, and now I have to schedule what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it, and my expectation is when I open that package, everything's going to be right. And the number of times that it hasn't been, you would think I would do things differently at this stage. And that's a solid point, Randy. Not only for the fact that we need that information. You've got 48 hours, maybe 72 hours to get us that information if something's damaged. But it's not just that. It's also who wants that headache when you go, I've got everything framed in, everything's ready to go. I got my people here, my contractor's here. He's going to install this thing. And that's the first time you crack that box and go, surprise. What a horrible feeling, and we deal with folks who walk through that experience. And empathy on my side every time. I hate that feeling when you're so excited to get going and you open it. And then you kind of beat yourself up and go, I should have opened this thing, a week ago or whatever when I got it. So please, everybody, make sure that's a big piece of it right there. Have a plan, and then once you get it into its place, open the thing up and make sure everything looks right and is right.
Yeah, absolutely. We stress a lot of safety, around here with everything that we do, and this is when it comes to these freight deliveries, it's right up there as being very, very important to do because of that small window that we have to file a claim on our customers' behalf.
Absolutely. You have fire-related questions, and we have answers. You can email us your questions at podcast@woodlanddirect.com or give us a call at 586-221-3638. We would love to be able to answer them right here on the Experts in Fire podcast. So Randy, let's say I opened it, I got it, everything looks good. What do I do next?
So some things that are going to be common included with each of the fireplaces that a customer is going to receive are going to be your installation manuals. As well, there could be a separate even for installation guidelines. There might be like an owner's manual and then an installation guideline. And then nowadays, Mike, a lot of our manufacturers are using even like some QR code stickers on these units so that somebody can just scan that QR code and have those manuals actually pop up on their phone, their tablet, or something like that.
You know, Randy, that became super popular during COVID. I say popular, necessary, because people could not change their manuals fast enough when they had shortages of valves and different pieces, and they had to switch to a different valve. So everybody started using QR codes. We use QR codes on the product we manufacture because it gives you, as the customer, the most up-to-date information about that unit. It's amazing how slow paper transfers.
Right.
Somebody had to make a change on something because there's a shortage of steel over in some country and that particular thing couldn't be produced. So they made a switch and then they have to send it to the printer to print it. Yet they have, 500 people saying, "Where's my stuff?" And nobody wants to be waiting on a manual. So QR codes and digital manuals became huge. In our industry. I think they were pretty big everywhere else already, but in our industry, they became really big.
Yeah, I just think of the QR codes for the menus when you went back to restaurants and stuff. Exactly, it's the same type of thing. Just QR codes for the manuals and installation guides.
It makes sense. It's not just cool. It's not just neat. It's not just the newest thing that you can do with technology. It is the best information you're going to get is if you use that QR code.
Yeah, it's going to be the most up to date in most cases as well, because like you said, it's easy to change something on the fly through a QR code than it is to try to get something updated in print. It is just going to give you the most up-to-date information. And then, kind of as we move through some of these, Mike, the next one is their identification tags that are on the fireplaces. So these are going to be possibly, different locations depending on the fireplace, but it's an identification tag that's going to have your model number, your serial number, typically going to call out whether it was a natural gas or propane, the gas pressures, and it's going to be stuck to the fireplace, whether it's on the back. Some of them are on the sides of the fireplace, on the exterior of the units themselves. And then there's also a tag that is stuck to like a metal plate that is usually found underneath your burner assembly, like kind of through an access door. It has like a little chain link to it so that it never gets removed. It's supposed to stay in place in case, once it's framed in, if your identification tag is on the back or the side of a fireplace, you're not going to see it, So a couple things there. If you have a paper manual, I always recommend folks, no matter what, as soon as you get it, write that model and serial number down, even though the model number will be on your manual. Still write it down off of the tag, the information from the tag to your manual, in case you ever have to have it serviced. You can just hand the service tech the manual. All that information is already there.
The truth is, it's not in case you ever have to. You will need to have it serviced, right? I haven't bought a single thing for a home, for any of the homes that I've owned, that hasn't had to be serviced at some point. So, and again, I was that guy when I was young, and I remember we built a home down in Texas, and man, I was just young and dumb. And so it was new. Everything was new, so why would I? And then, 2 years in, all of a sudden, you got a service guy standing there looking at you like, "Well, did you write that down?" No. No, I didn't, man. I'm sorry.
I don't even know where it's at.
It just takes that one time of feeling like a dork, and you'll do it the next time. So take our advice. I felt like the dork. You don't need to feel like a dork. Just write it down. And then we all have that drawer, shove it in that drawer.
I got file cabinet drawers full of manuals.
Yep, for sure. If you have a good, if you have a good way of keeping these things digitally, if you're listening out there and you keep these things digitally, shoot us a note. Let us know what's one of your tricks, because I want to use it, number one. But number two, we'll share it with our listeners too. So that would be fun. All right. So you got your identification tags. And that is one of the things that a service rep's going to ask for. Or if you call us and say, hey, my pilot isn't staying lit or whatever, we'll help troubleshoot that as well. And if we need to get you parts, we're going to need all that information. So that's just good stuff to have on hand and put in place. What else do we need, Randy?
So with like a direct vent style fireplace, they're all going to be included a child protective screen that goes on the front of them, in front of that glass. That's something that's going to come with each direct vent. And these are all included style items. And of course, you have just your standard stuff. It makes sense, but we wanted to touch on it anyways. It's things like your burner assembly, the gas specific valves. If it's a direct vent, there might be a possible conversion kit if somebody's using natural gas, so that the field installer can make that conversion on site. Some fireplaces may already come set up for the propane, or natural gas specific. But we do want to just, make people aware of, sometimes there is particular models that will just have a conversion kit to do that. And then, of course, on the underside where all the controls are, where your gas valve, and if it's like an electronic ignition, where all your control modules are. Most of these units are going to have like factory installed junction boxes for the electrician to be able to tie into. These are the kind of things that are already built into the fireplaces, Mike, that are on the underside of the valve, that are these are the things that are hidden, by some type of cover plate. The drive, the machine that runs the unit, the stuff you don't see, it's kind of like the motor under the hood.
So, and I don't want to go too deep into just a direct vent fireplace. Let's elevate back up. If I received a vent-free firebox, there are particular things that I'd be looking for. Be specific, but not too specific. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when it comes to a ventless style fireplace, those are going to be, for example, so everything's going to apply as far as your delivery goes. Same thing with your inspection, the manuals we talked about, the identification tags, things of that nature. On a ventless fireplace, those are going to be gas specific no matter what. So if you order natural gas, it is going to ship as natural gas. If you order propane, it is going to ship as a propane. There's no converting those into the field. So those are very specific. As far as like your valve and some of these factory installed the control modules, the junction box for the electrician. Now, of course, with a direct vents are sealed systems, solid glass panels. You're not going to have that on a ventless fireplace. So don't expect to receive like a solid glass panel for the front of it when you receive it to have any kind of glass front. Now, I will say, Mike, with a ventless fireplace, depending on the model, like if it's a contemporary style linear, it may have a glass little, what they call like a wind guard, goes in front of the flame that may be 2 to 3 inches, or even possibly like 6 inches tall. Those are considered wind guards. Some fireplaces are going to be like an optional accessory, and some it may come with it. So, those are some things to look out for. And, when you talk to one of our sales technicians, they're going to be able to acknowledge if it's coming with it or if it's an optional accessory that you can purchase.
Yeah, I love it, Randy. You're going to know as the person who purchased this item, the why behind it. I purchased it because it's direct vent and it has the glass, or it's vent free and it doesn't. Or it's going to go outside if it's an outdoor unit and has that wind guard on it. Just keep all of those things in mind while you inspect, so that you can find them. Take a little running total of yep, it has everything there, so that on install day you'll be smiling instead of frowning. That's the goal.
Absolutely. And as we move into like some of the optional items that may be included, one of the things I just want to touch on is, as you're going through like this freight delivery, aside from the damage part and your included items that you're looking for, we want to make sure that all of your items are included. So not only the stuff that is going to be included that comes from the factory, but also your optional items that we're going to run through. So you just want to make sure that all of these items have been received as well, which is going to be real important, because, optional items on whether it's a ventless or a direct vent, these could include like a remote control. It could be a log set that you chose for that particular fireplace. It could be your fire glass media, the color, aside from, possibly something that ships with it. Blowers. Blowers are optional on a number of the fireplaces. They don't come with them. Your surrounds, or, some people will call them trim. Think of a picture frame mic that's going to go around the fireplace after it's installed. Those are optional accessories because folks may just want to finish their material right to the edges of the fireplace and not have a picture frame that goes around it, or trim, or a surround. And then, on the inside of the fireplace, you have different liners that are available. Fire brick, like a porcelain reflective, or just a black liner. So these are other things that are all optional as well. So there's a lot of options. And then you get into, there's a number of direct vent fireplaces. There's a Ventless that even has kits for TVs, for allowing TVs to be placed right above the fireplaces without any kind of mantle mic. So these are all different optional accessories that we want to make sure that we look out for.
Yeah, it's a little more than just, hey, open the box and see if anything's damaged. And I'm glad we're going this deep with it, because it really is that thing that makes for a great experience the day that it all comes together. So take some time, sit down, take a look, make sure everything's there, make sure you're able to find each piece that you know. And I love the way you said that, because a lot of times people will order those optional pieces and just assume. Again, I'm guilty. I assume that, hey, that was done. Mistakes do get made. We do want to create amazing experiences around fire, and that's really the heart of what we're trying to do here, is help you overcome any roadblocks, or the roadblocks that we've seen, to joy. This is how you do them. Take care of this stuff early.
Exactly.
We talked a lot about fireplaces because we sell a boatload of fireplaces. But right now, we also sell a boatload of fire pits. How much of this changes on a fire pit delivery, and what should I expect there?
On the front end, as we talked about the freight delivery of the curbside, inspecting for damage, for fire pits, that's all going to be the same. Very, very common. We want to follow the same rules there for our fire pits. Now, with the exception of, and what I mean by this, the exception of like as far as a freight delivery, if you're ordering certain sizes of our Tondo fire pits, now those may ship ground in a couple pieces. We still need those inspected, of course, but they just may not show up on a pallet. But your other concrete, steel fire pits, everything's going to follow the same guidelines as far as the curbside delivery, needing some assistance, that scheduled delivery appointment, and inspecting for damage. Receiving a manual still, as we touched on, a lot of these fire pits are going to have the QR codes, especially if it's a fire pit that's simply a match light. Lack of better terms, it's a match light where it just has a key valve, and you're just going to turn a key and use like a barbecue lighter to light that, which is like the basic, simplest way to operate that fire pit. But then also, with a fire pit, you're going to expect to receive that burner assembly, the plate that's in there, that key valve, if it's a match light type of system. Now, and we're talking about the items that are included now, some fire pits may include lava rock, but they may not. We want to make sure that those things are gone over, because that might fall into our optional accessories, Mike. Electronic ignition system, if it's ordered with an electronic ignition system, Mike, that's going to be something that is included. It's going to be pre-built into that burner, so that's going to be included. And same, the manual will come with that, the QR code, as far as that goes.
Yeah, a lot of the same concepts, right? Be ready to get it off a truck. Make sure you inspect it when you get it. Make sure that any optional accessories that you purchased are there or are being delivered at some point. If they're coming from a different warehouse, make sure that on the day that it's going to be installed, you have everything.
Exactly.
Randy, I think we covered a lot here. We've been talking for quite a while. I didn't think we'd actually talk this long about what to expect, but man, there are so many things. And I just want to stress again, the excitement of purchasing is fun, but then inspect what you expect. Right? That's one of the phrases we use around here all the time. Just make sure you inspect what you expect so that on that day of install, you can watch it go together and then just sit there and smile. So, as always, thank you everyone for listening. We really appreciate you joining us today. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or you say you guys are just dumb, get a hold of us and let us know. We have no issues with that. If you can see the smile on Randy's face right now, you would know we've been called worse.
Absolutely.
And I know it would be mostly in jest and we could have a good conversation, but we'd love to talk to our listeners. And then, Randy, as always, sir, thank you so much for taking time out of your day as selling product to spend time with our listeners so that they can understand our product a little more. I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
We'll see ya. Join us next time for a deep dive into the Montego Prodigy fireplace. We'll see you then.